Hey, welcome back. If you haven't listened to part one of my RV story, make sure you listen to that one first. It's linked in the show notes, and then come back and listen to this one because it is part two. As you know, my husband and I bought an RV and decided to rent it out. First year renters, we'd been told, typically get 2 to 3 bookings in a season. At this point in the story, we already had two confirmed before the season had even opened. So when a third inquiry came through, I got excited. If this woman booked, we'd already have set the baseline for ourselves. We'd be on track to surpass it, which of course was the goal. But then some weirdness started. Unlike our other two renters, this woman wanted to have a call before booking. And I'm a millennial. I do not make phone calls. I was already put off at this point, but I had a goal in mind, so I took the call. Her first question was about our mileage policy. The way we structured it, each booking had a daily mileage allowance built in. So let's just say if the limit was 100 miles per day and they booked for 7 days, they'd have 700 miles to use on their trip before an additional charge kicked in. Makes sense, right? More miles means more wear and tear on the vehicle, and the odometer goes up, which depreciates the vehicle. So obviously that has to be reflected financially. So she was coming in from Montreal to our place in Ontario. She and her family were taking their son to drop him off at a US based university. So they were doing like a really cool family road trip adventure. And when she asked about the mileage, I did the math on their route and their trip duration. And based on our rates, they were looking at an additional 500-ish, if memory serves, amount in mileage charges. So she wanted me to actually waive that. I was immediately like, no, we're not going to be doing that. Here's why, blah, blah, blah. I explained the policy and she pushed back. I was completely caught off guard. None of this had been mentioned before she asked to have a call with me. She was kind of pushy, and that pit in my stomach showed up for the first time. I told her I'd think about a flat rate for the extra miles and call her back. So Joel and I talked. I said, she feels high maintenance, but it is a longer trip. It's 10 days. And financially, it probably makes sense. We had a week-long booking and a weekend booking prior. So this felt like it would be our biggest quote unquote win. So I called her back and I agreed to the flat rate, which I don't think is like a big deal. It's not unheard of to do a little bit of negotiations. And that's when she said, "Thank you so much. You're the best," blah, 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 really kind of being gross and making me feel like I had donated a kidney to her when I really just agreed to a flat mileage rate. So that's when she said, "Now there's one more thing." Here we go, I thought in my head. And she asked if she could bring her dog. Now, keep in mind, this is a brand new RV, brand new leather interior. Maybe it was fake leather. I don't even know. But we had a strict no pet policy that was clearly outlined. And I immediately said to her, "I'm sorry, we cannot accommodate that." And then she kept on talking and talking to me about how the dog was her son's companion. He would never be on any furniture. He doesn't like staying with sitters and yada, 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 right? She was wearing me down and I was like, oh my God, I'm an animal lover. I've had animals my whole life, but I was more annoyed at the fact that she wasn't respecting our policy. Then she started pleading her case because she could tell, I think, that I was a little bit perturbed. And she said that he would be freshly groomed. His nails would not just be trimmed, but they would be filed. And then he would completely stay off the furniture. And then while we're still on the phone together, she starts texting me photos of this dog, like not just a photo, but like multiple photos of this like perfect little angel dog, like a visual sales pitch for her own violation of our policy. Super strange, right? So again, I said I would think about it because I'm completely caught off guard here. So I talked to Joel and he looked at me and was like, forget her. But then my goal and my desire to have a certain number of bookings, a certain amount of revenue come in, it kicked in and it took over. I started talking myself out of my initial gut reaction and started saying things like, what's the worst that could happen? We have a damage deposit. I'll file a complaint if anything goes wrong. And so, long story short, we ended up agreeing to book her, but neither of us felt good about it. Fast forward to pickup day, and please keep in mind that she is a high maintenance person because this was not the end of our communication. I'm just trying to expedite a story here. Pickup day rolls around. Joel takes her husband out for a drive to walk him through the vehicle. And Joel told me that it was ridiculous how poorly his driving was, especially when you're taking somebody else's vehicle. You drive extra cautiously, right? Like, it's like when I have other kids in my car, I'm so white knuckling it, making sure I'm not going a kilometer over the speed limit because I don't want something bad to happen to somebody else's kids and be responsible for that. Obviously, I don't want anything bad to happen to my own kids as well, too. But if you're a parent, you probably get what I'm saying with this. So this guy is being kind of reckless with our vehicle. He is hammering on the gas. He is taking sharp corners. Joel's telling him to slow down, widen your turns. This isn't a sedan. And this undercurrent of arrogance the entire time was ever present. I, however, was at the cottage with the kids, and Joel was handling this whole in-person interaction alone. And then he had planned to drive up afterwards to meet us. So regardless, he tells them, like, you got to be more slow, you got to be more cautious, and basically acting like a driving instructor for what should be the obvious. But they take the RV, and within about 3 to 4 hours, I get a phone call. They had stopped for coffee and somewhat locked themselves out. They had the keys. At first they said they didn't have the keys, which was very confusing. But then they said, oh no, we have the keys. They're just not working. And I'm like, keys work. Keys always work. Unless you've like bent or like sawed at it, it's going to work. But they couldn't figure out how to get back into the RV. That was what was actually happening. They assumed the keys weren't working, but they just weren't opening the vehicle properly. So I'm up north with spotty service. I'm trying to describe and visualize a door that I did not pay any attention to. So I'm struggling to navigate them through this. Anyways, Joel ends up getting on the phone with them and sorts it all out, and they're back on the road. And this whole like undertone of her feeling like this is our responsibility, that the door is being difficult because of something that we've done. They just clearly didn't understand how an RV operated. I mean, albeit neither did we really, but I had a trailer growing up that we summered at. And so I knew like those doors are meant to be latched for security reasons. So I understand that they're a little bit tricky, but she felt like this was something personal that we were responsible for, not just like how the vehicle is naturally manufactured. Regardless, she's then sending me a different tone of messages where it's all sunshine and rainbows after she was so angry at me on the phone, sending me pictures of this dog, this happy, cute little dog. Fine, whatever. It's great. I think she's being nice, and it also feels completely off and performative on top of being confusing. So fast forward a few days later, after I'm already kind of on edge and just like counting down the days until this RV comes back and they're gone, I get an angry text. The valance above the dining table had come flying, air quotes, off the wall and nearly killed her dog. Her dog, who was on the dining bench, who also would never be on the furniture, so she said. But several drawers and cupboards had also stopped closing. And so she was all ticked off that they had to go out and buy duct tape. She was so upset that her dog almost died from getting hit with this valance. And they had to go and duct tape these drawers and cupboards closed because they kept swinging open. And let me tell you, anyone who spent any time in a trailer or an RV knows that those drawers and cupboards are designed to stay shut in a moving vehicle. You almost have to like really yank on them and get them open, you have to give it a good amount of pull force. So to have several of them fail all at once meant something went wrong fast, in our opinion. Joel and I did figure it out pretty quickly that based on the valance falling and these doors and drawers and cupboards not closing properly, the likely situation was that whoever was driving had taken a very sharp, fast corner and or braked very hard, and the valance came off the wall. Hard braking with open drawers or cupboards would have misaligned them and prevented them from latching effectively. On top of the fact that I go back and I look at these drawers that are damaged and need new latches, there's duct tape residue all over them that I have to carefully remove after the fact. So anyways, all of that seems pretty on par for these people at this point. Then it comes to their checkout date where they return the vehicle to us. They are hours late. Fine, whatever. It wasn't that big of a deal because we didn't have renters the same day or even for a couple of days after them. But the RV comes back, and during the inspection, we're walking around and we can see some damage. And they very casually and nonchalantly managed to tell us that there was a small sign that they hit. At this point, I saw red. I was fuming because there were marks and scratches along the passenger side. There was a mark down the side of the vehicle, like past the entry door, but they were simply directing our attention to those spots, and then that was it. So they left. After they were gone, we did a thorough inspection of the vehicle, and we realized that the awning was completely busted. The caps were gone. It was no longer electronically retractable. It was all misaligned. And whatever they hit was obviously not a small sign. But the vehicle had to go straight into the shop. The awning repair was delayed for months because the dealership couldn't get parts in. They also brought it back with no gas and no septic emptied, which is something that is clearly outlined in the expectations for the renter. And they were just like, oh, you can just fill it up and tell us what we owe you, kind of thing. And that feeling that I'd had in my stomach on the phone, I had just finished delivering its verdict. So here's the part that brings this all back together and how this is actually a business lesson. I didn't book that woman because I was naive. I booked her because of a goal that I had and a number that I needed to hit. 3 bookings felt like proof that we could do the thing that we had set out to do, that we were on track, that certain numbers made it financially successful. And I let that need for proof override everything that my gut was trying to tell me from the beginning of the interaction with this woman to the insurance claims that we had to file and the ongoing disputes that ended up happening for a month after they returned the vehicle. So this is actually what I call goal hijacking. It's the moment your desire to hit a metric becomes louder than your own discernment. And it's one of the most expensive mistakes that you can make in your business. I'm sure you have probably done this at some point, or you know somebody that has done this. It's not atypical. It happens to the best of us. The discovery call where everything felt slightly off, the energy was weird, the questions were too demanding, the scope kept shifting, but you needed the client. You had a revenue goal, or you were trying to hit a program goal with the number of attendees that you were trying to fill it with. So you said yes. Maybe there was a client who knew what your rates were, but she wanted to negotiate them. And you held for a minute, and then you eventually gave her a discount because the booking felt like momentum. Maybe there was a client that had a special circumstance and she really wanted your help, and you told yourself, what's the worst that can happen? I'll tell you what the worst that can happen is. You spend the next 3 months managing somebody who was never going to be a good fit, who was never designed to be in your ecosystem. Maybe she's high maintenance from one day. She doesn't follow your protocols. She doesn't do the work. She gets poor results, and she wants somebody to blame other than herself. And then she tells people about it, or she leaves a bad review, or she just drains you energetically to the point where you have nothing left for the clients who are actually in your corner and love working with you and who you love working with. And here's what makes this insidious. It feels like confidence in the moment. It feels like we can do this, we can navigate this, we can get through this. And while, yeah, that's always true, but it's also just more than that. It's this feeling like you're being bold and you're taking risks and you're backing yourself. But there's a line between confidence and goal hijacking, and that line is discernment. Real confidence knows when to walk away from the wrong opportunity. So what do you do instead? You get clear on what a red flag actually costs you. You have to be real with yourself because it's not just emotional, it's financial. That renter cost us a damaged awning, months of delayed repairs, extra admin time, and a couple of genuinely stressful weeks. That booking was not worth it. It was never going to be worth it. And your red flag people or programs or opportunities aren't going to be worth it for you either. In your business, a bad fitting client costs you your time, your energy, your results, your confidence. The second thing you do is name your non-negotiables before pressure is on. I hadn't fully decided what a deal breaker looked like before she called. I was making it up on the fly in real time on a call I didn't expect, feeling caught off guard. That's how you end up negotiating against yourself. And that's exactly what I did. In your business, know before the discovery call what your hard limits are. What behaviors are automatic no's regardless of how much you want the sale? A client who asks you to lower your rate before she's even heard what your offer is, that is the dog photo equivalent. She's already showing you who she is. The third, and this is the one that nobody wants to hear, is that you have to be willing to stay at 2 bookings. I was so fixated on 3 bookings being the baseline that I couldn't see staying at 2 as a viable option. I had tunnel vision, but 2 solid, respectful, uncomplicated renters who had been infinitely better than 2 plus her, 2 great clients who follow your protocols, do the work, give you the testimonials, get results, who will build your business faster than a handful of nightmares. So saying no to the wrong person is not a failure. It is a CEO move. So anyways, let's bring this all back. The awning got fixed eventually. The tape residue came off, the scratches got touched up, and the RV went out again to renters who were absolutely delightful and nobody else asking me to jump on a phone call with them. And that was a joyful, joyous, happy experience for both renter and rentee. But I'll never get those weeks back. And I'll never unsee what it looks like when I let my goal make a decision my gut already vetoed. I encourage you to do the same. Your gut is not a drama queen. She is helping you become accurate with your decisions. The question is whether you're willing to trust it when trusting it costs you the booking or the client. So I'm going to leave you with this. The holistic nutritionists who are building real, sustainable, and scalable businesses are not the ones who are saying yes to every single person or opportunity. They are the ones who get very good very early on at recognizing the difference between an opportunity and a liability that is dressed up as an opportunity. All right, that is my little story of the week. I hope you're learning through this story about what to do, what not to do, and how to conduct yourself when your gut is trying to help you override your goals. If you liked this podcast, please do me a favor and share it with a friend. And like always, leave a 5-star review because it helps more women hear these episodes and grow the show. I'll see you back here next week for a new episode. If you're listening to this, you probably already know that you need some business support. It's not a question. The question is when and how. Your roster is full, your income has stopped growing, and you're starting to realize that adding more clients isn't the answer. You, my friend, need a different structure entirely. That's what Ignite builds. It's my 6-month mastermind where you build your scalable offers, your course, your ecosystem, and the CEO identity to run it all. And you do that inside of a community of women who are at exactly the same point you are at right now. That room changes things in ways that are hard to explain until you're in it and feeling it. For June only, you can secure your spot in the fall cohort and spread your investment across 9 months instead of 6. More space to step in without the weight of a compressed timeline. And if paying in full feels right, you get a private 1-hour intensive with me included. Just us, and your business. That's a $550 value. Ignite runs once a year, and the link is in the show notes.